because they came through asylum. Either Joe Biden or George Bush or Obama or even Trump actually himself in the first term gave people from a lot of countries, Venezuela, Cuba, etc., asylum, temporary protected status. Haiti, this was a big thing during the campaign. And so now they've taken away their status and they're like, self-deport or we'll deport you. So these people didn't come illegally. Like, they came through a legal process, and now we've got ICE agents and apparently former Superman actors are going to jump out of vans and nab them and hold them in deportation cells. That's insane. Like, that's not how you act in a free country.
In today's video, Tim Miller absolutely destroys Dean Cain in a heated debate about ICE on the Piers Morgan show. Dean Cain came in swinging with the usual tough on immigration rhetoric, but Tim Miller wasn't having it. He hit back with hard, verifiable facts, calling out misinformation, breaking down how ICE actually operates, and exposing the real impact these policies have on communities. So let's dive in and watch how Tim Miller shuts down Dean Cain on the Piers Morgan show.
So no, I do think in a lot of these cases it is different. Like, a lot of these situations are complicated, and they've tried to come legally.
They are. There is no doubt it is complicated. Dean, over to you.
Tim, I don't understand why you have to go, a former untrained actor. I'm not untrained. I've been a sheriff's deputy for almost 10 years. I've been a sworn sheriff's deputy and a reserve police officer. So I don't know why you're saying untrained. And by the way, when you join ICE, they train you. So to say that and try to denigrate because I'm an actor, I shouldn't be able to be concerned about what's going on with our borders or with our law enforcement agencies is denigrating. It's ridiculous. Should I say because you're a former Republican strategist, you have no say on anything? That's baloney. So first of all, discounting that, making a cheap joke, just like John Oliver or Bill Maher or anybody else. Let me finish my sentence. Let me finish my sentence. Let me finish my sentence, please. Let me finish my sentence, please. Denigrating somebody because they're doing this because of what they used to do or what they do, or whether they're an actor or a writer or a newscaster, is ridiculous. It's an ad hominem attack. It's wrong. And there's been over 100,000 people who have put in applications for ICE. So clearly there is a desire for people to step up and serve this country.
Dean, if you show up at someone's, you said on Fox that you'd be if they sent you in, you'd be happy to jump out of a truck and go apprehend people. So if you show up at the door of someone's home as an ICE agent, which you're an ICE agent now, do you know what rights they have?
I'm not an ICE agent yet.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so you are an untrained former actor. You are an untrained former actor. I am a former actor.
I'm a former professional football player too. So we want to run down my resume? I mean, so it's stupid.
I'm just telling a fact.
Yeah, you're denigrate it as though it's something negative. You denigrate it like it's something negative. Like, you know what you're saying. So quit trying to gloss over it. It's ridiculous. It was snarky and it was stupid.
I'm telling you why it's negative. You don't know the job. You don't know the job. That's why it's negative. It's nothing.
You don't know that I don't know the job. You're just assuming. Did you know I was a law enforcement officer?
I just asked you, do you know what migrants' rights are? If you show up to someone's house as an ICE agent, do you know what rights they have? Do you know?
Have all the due process rights of anybody in this country.
Okay. So do you need a warrant signed by a judge to apprehend somebody?
This is ridiculous. I'm not a sworn ICE agent yet.
Well, you were saying you were happy to jump out of vans and start apprehending people. You were bragging about that.
I will. And then you made it, of course. And I would if that's what the director asked me to do.
I'm going to say, hang on. I've got to say, of all the arguments to use against Dean Cain, I do find the kind of constant sneering that he was Superman and an actor. I do think that's irrelevant, actually. He's perfectly entitled, as an American citizen, to train up to be an ICE agent should he want to. And as he's made repeatedly clear, Tim, he'll only start being an ICE agent when he's completed that training. So I don't think the fact he's been an actor or footballer or Superman or anything else makes any difference. The fact he's been, as he said, a sheriff and other things in terms of law enforcement actually makes him more qualified than most citizens to train to be an ICE agent. And if he wants to be, then what's the problem? Why should we use his background as a stick to beat him with?
I can answer that, Piers. Are you not concerned that ICE has decided that they're just going to go on this recruitment campaign and start leveling up the amount of agents that are going to be masked?
You know, Tim Miller's not wrong to be worried here. The bigger issue isn't Dean Cain's acting career, it's what ICE actually does when it levels up its operations. The data's pretty clear. A huge percentage of ICE arrests in recent years haven't been violent criminals or security threats. According to DHS' own report, in fiscal year 2021, nearly half of ICE's removals were people with no criminal convictions at all. Many were asylum seekers or people who had lived here legally under programs like temporary protected status until policy changes yanked that protection away. And the idea of just ramping up agent numbers without oversight is dangerous. Multiple government watchdog reports like the DHS Office of Inspector General have found ICE detention facilities failing basic health and safety standards, with issues ranging from lack of medical care to abuse allegations. Adding more agents into the same system without fixing it first just means scaling up the same problems. Plus, there's the Fourth Amendment side of this. ICE operates under different rules than local police, but even so, they can't just walk into someone's home without a judicial warrant. An administrative ICE warrant isn't enough. Most people don't know that, and ICE has been caught using knock and talk tactics to trick people into letting them in. If Dean Cain or anyone else is going to jump out of vans and start making arrests, they better understand those limits, because history shows ICE hasn't always respected them.
Going into Hispanic communities?
Well, no, I think
all that just
on the
shows
masking. Well, hang on.
We want trained people. We want trained
on the masking.
This is very hard. This is hard work, and we got to respect people's rights. And ICE is not doing that.
But nobody.
And just following up really quick.
All right, but two things.
People is not great. It's not going to help. That's a real concern. That's a legit concern that people who are not trained are going to be doing these jobs.
Sure. Two things I would say by way of response. One, I've not seen any evidence that people are going to be poorly trained to be ICE agents. They'll be recruited as they always have been and trained. Well, but you're talking about trained ICE agents.
They keep grabbing people.
I don't think wearing masks. I don't think Yeah, but But my second point was we all know why they're wearing masks. It's because they're being doxxed left, right, and centre on social media and having their lives threatened. Of course they are.
No. This is bullshit. For starters, we have evidence ICE agents aren't being trained. It is. Really quick. Let's go back to George Redis. He arrived at work. He was a U.S. citizen. ICE agents surrounded his car. He identified himself as a U.S. citizen. They broke his window, pepper sprayed him, and dragged him out. He's in detention for 3 days. So we do have evidence that they're not being trained to respect people's rights. And on the masks, this is crazy. Do you know how many judges have been threatened? You know, if you're a judge and you have, there's a case that is happening, you're a prosecutor, and you're targeting a murder suspect, these guys have been threatened. There have been judges whose families have been threatened. Their lives have been threatened. There are a lot of people in public life who have been threatened. You still don't get to wear a mask and be a secret judge. Not in a free country. You don't. I'm sure you get threatened. I'm sorry. If you're an agent of the government, if you're a representative of the people, you need to show your face and name yourself so that you have accountability. That is a totally reasonable ask. And so I have no sympathy.
Let me get Dean. All right, well, I'll get Dean to respond, but there is an irony, of course, that all the people who campaigned so aggressively for everyone to be masked during the COVID pandemic are now furious about the wearing of masks.
Honestly, Tim Miller's point about training and accountability hits at the heart of the problem with ICE's track record. We're not talking about hypotheticals. There's a documented history of botched operations and wrongful detentions. A 2021 Government Accountability Office report found that ICE detained thousands of US citizens between 2015 and 2020 due to sloppy verification and poor training. Some were held for weeks before officials realized they weren't even deportable. And the whole mask for safety argument, that might make sense for undercover work, but in day-to-day enforcement, especially when you're knocking on doors or stopping people in their own neighborhoods, visibility is a basic safeguard against abuse. Police officers don't get to operate anonymously for a reason. The public has to know who's exercising government power over them. Without that, it becomes nearly impossible to hold anyone accountable for misconduct. Plus, There's already evidence that ICE's enforcement disproportionately targets Latino communities, even when the stated mission is to focus on criminal aliens. The ACLU and TRAC immigration at Syracuse University have both found that the majority of ICE arrests in some regions involve people with no criminal convictions at all. That's not just a training gap, it's a systemic mission creep problem.
Dean, your response.
Well, the reason, the unfortunate reason that they're masking up is because they are being doxxed. The attacks on ICE agents have gone up over 1,000%. Their families, you disagree with that stat?
No, I'm sure that, but look, that's what I'm saying. I'm sorry, if you work for the federal government, you cannot be a secret agent that nabs people.
No, do you disagree with the stat? I asked you specifically.
Okay, I'm saying it doesn't. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You still have to. You still can't be a secret thug cop in a free country. I'm sorry. You have
They're
to tell people.
They're not thug cops, and the fact that you're denigrating them and calling them these names and these things is part of the problem. It's same thing with me standing up and joining ICE. You are going out there and you're villainizing. Let me finish my sentence, please. You're going out and you're villainizing myself. You're going out and you're villainizing these ICE agents who are trying to uphold the law. These are wonderful men and women. They shouldn't be attacked. Their families shouldn't be attacked. They're doing their job that Congress has given them the authority to do and written the laws for. If you don't like the laws, have Congress change them. We should be upset that all these congressmen aren't delivering a new legislation, a new legislative piece, talking about how these things should be dealt with. That should be the problem, but not doxing our ICE agents and not going down and just tearing them down and turning them into villains like many people have tried to do to me. They're not villains. These are wonderful people, and they're trying to protect Americans.
And also,
like, you're coming out with names. I'll give you names. Jocelyn Nungary. How about her? A 12-year-old girl killed in Houston by illegals. Was that okay? Do you care about her? Are you going to step up for her?
Of course not. Of course that's not okay. Of course
I do think it's important. Yeah, but it's important, Tim, I think, just before you respond, it's very important to acknowledge that ICE are also apprehending a lot of very bad people in this process. I mean, indisputably, you can see the stories every day. So, yes, there are some that are getting through the net, which is unacceptable. I don't like the tactics of storming into Home Depot and rounding up random people who may be undocumented. But we shouldn't be too denigrating of what ICE is doing in removing bad people. That we should all be on the right side of.
I don't denigrate that, but I'm just saying in any job, there are people that are bad apples that act poorly. It's true about podcasting, news hosting, acting. Like, I'm sorry, when you have the force of the state at your hand, you have to be transparent about who you are, and allowing people to be masked and to rough people up without any accountability is just wrong. And what about that guy? I don't have his name in front of me. There's the older gentleman outside the IHOP in LA where you are, Piers, who got pepper sprayed, pushed to the ground, manhandled, thrown into a van. There was a video of it. His kids all served in the military. He hadn't filled out some of his paperwork. Is that the way that we treat people? It encourages bad behavior when guys get to wear masks and rough people up. So I'm sorry, sure, obviously, I'm not denigrating all people that work for ICE, but there have been some very bad actions, and their treatment of some of the migrants has been wrong. And I think that adding in new people who are not trained for this, who have been riled up by the extreme rhetoric of some in this administration, I think that you're going to bring in people that care more about deporting people and getting back at the bad immigrants than they care about respecting people's rights.
Dean Cain keeps trying to make this about villainizing ICE agents, but the real conversation should be about oversight and accountability when you give someone the power to take away another person's freedom. This isn't just speculation, there's a long paper trail of ICE overstepping. A 2021 GAO report found that ICE wrongfully detained hundreds of US citizens over the last decade, often because agents didn't verify legal status properly. Some of those people sat in detention for weeks before the government admitted it had made a mistake. And masking, that's not a small issue. It removes one of the few built-in safeguards the public has. knowing who is carrying out the arrest. Local police officers aren't allowed to hide their identities during normal operations for a reason. It makes misconduct easier to track and stop abuse before it starts. When ICE agents operate anonymously, complaints become harder to investigate and patterns of abuse can go unchecked. And let's not forget, ICE's own data shows that a majority of its arrests in recent years haven't been of violent criminals at all. TRAC Immigration's analysis has shown in that some years, over half of those arrests had no criminal convictions. That means the people getting scooped up in these raids often aren't the worst of the worst. Politicians love to talk about their people with families, jobs, and long-standing community ties who suddenly get treated like fugitives. If ICE wants trust, it has to build on transparency, accuracy, and proportionality, not secretive, militarized tactics that erode the very freedoms it claims to protect. Pause. Are you getting tired of getting half the story from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing and another says the complete opposite. How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, left, right, and center are covering the same story. So you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights into media bias and political trends. Stay informed, think for yourself, and check out ground news in the description down below.